Yo, what is going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I'm here with the final installment of this positional tier list video series that I've been doing. We're here with centers, the final position to rank. We've got MVP candidate, All-NBA, All-Star, Fringe All-Star, Great, Good, and Meh. We're going to go ahead and rank 31 centers, I believe I have here, with 2 from the Bucks, Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis, as well as every team's starting center. We're going to go ahead and rank them, not take too long talking about any of them. We'll see how it goes. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and tell me why I got something wrong. Let's go ahead and start off with Jakob Poeltl, who I'm going to put in the great tier. He's pretty good defensively. I think he kind of goes under the radar because he's on the Spurs. He's going to get a lot of looks because the Spurs aren't going to be very good and they need some form of offense this season. So he might put up a little bit better numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved too while he is kind of young. He also really doesn't fit their timeline since they're just starting their rebuild. Similar situation to DeJounte Murray. I think he's a guy that gets moved by the deadline to probably some kind of contender, and they're going to be so much better off because of it. Pascal Siakam, I'm going to put in All-NBA. Pascal is one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion. He is phenomenal, great offensively, defensively. He started at center most of last season for the Raptors, and I expect him to do that again. That's why he wasn't on the power forward tier list. He does play a lot more like a 4. They don't really have a traditional 5 in that lineup, but Pascal, whether you put him at the 4 or the 5, he can do what you need him to do. Like I said, lock up defensively, be your go-to guy on offense. Pascal's really good, and I think people need to give him a bit more respect. He did make All-NBA this past season, but he didn't even make the All-Star game, which I thought he should have. For Thomas Bryant, we're going to go good, and this is assuming that he comes back kind of similar to the way he played after injuries, or before his injuries. I expect him to be pretty good next to Anthony Davis and LeBron James. He's a decent rim protector. He can also shoot some threes. I think he'll be solid, but nothing special. For Wendell Carter Jr., we're going to go Fringe All-Star. I'm a big believer in Wendell, if you've been on this channel for a while. He's a guy that I think could, make some noise for an All-Star game if the Magic do overperform. Now, that's also a question of how good will the Magic be, but I think he's a guy that could be in some of that conversation. If the Magic do end up performing, he can play make, he can shoot, he can defend, do a bit of everything, and now having more talent with Paolo Banchero in the front court with him, as well as Franz Wagner, poised for a year 2 jump. The Magic, they've got a really good young core there brewing. Nick Claxton, I'm going to put in good, solid defender, both on the perimeter and down low. Not much of an offensive game at this point. He's still kind of raw in those areas, but his defense, I think, is super valuable to the Nets, and I think it will be this season. Next, we have Daniel Gafford, who I'm also going to put in good. Just kind of did a little bit of everything for the Washington Wizards. He might come off the bench behind Kristaps Porzingis, who I did put in my power forward video. Porzingis will probably start at center instead of Gafford, but Gafford is still a solid piece for this team, and I think he'll have a pretty good year for the Wiz. Next, we've got Isaiah Stewart, who I'm going to also put in good. He's learning to kind of stretch the floor a bit more, which I think is critical to him being successful. I see him more as a long-term 4 than a 5, to be honest. I think Jalen Duren is the long-term 5 for the Detroit Pistons, with Stewart maybe slotting over to the 4 over Marvin Bagley at some point, or maybe Stewart just ends up a backup center, but he's decent. He plays bigger than he is, even though he's only like 6'8", 6'9". He can grab you some boards, fight down low, and he's learning to stretch the floor a lot, drilling threes in Summer League, so we'll see if he keeps that up. Alperen Şengün, I'm also going to put in this tier. I think he has a solid season. Pretty good playmaker for a big. He can stretch the floor. He's got to work on his game defensively a bit, which I think is kind of a theme throughout the Rockets roster. But having a guy like Jabari Smith next to him as a great defender right from the get-go, I think will help him a bit and help him towards his development. He's going to be really special offensively. It's just a matter of can he get that defense to come along, and I think eventually he will. Next, we've got Steven Adams, who I'm also going to put in the good tier, not the meh tier. Steven Adams was probably more so great in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he was kind of just unplayable. He's really valuable to what the Grizzlies do in terms of setting screens and grabbing boards, but he just really wasn't able to be super effective in the playoffs. I'm curious to see how they try and game plan around that, because you can't have that happen when you're going into the playoffs this upcoming season for the Grizzlies. So I'm curious to see how his role shifts, if at all, but I think Steven Adams could have a good year. And Now ending this stretch of guys that we put in the good tier, we've got Bam Adebayo, who is an all-NBA caliber player. Bam is a defensive player of the year caliber guy, I think already. Wouldn't be surprised if he won this upcoming season. Solid playmaker for a big, he's a decent scorer. He needs to be more aggressive. That's the big thing I want to see from Bam, because if he is, I think he could be a perennial all-NBA guy and really start to enter the top conversations of, best centers in the league. Right now, I probably have him at 4th on my list if I had to make one, but Bam is really, really good. He is really capable in multiple facets of the offense. They just need him to kind of improve more in his aggression, and I think once he does that, he's going to be one of the best players in the league. Brook Lopez, I'll put in great. Part of me is tempted to move him down to good. We'll see. He's just getting older. He's still really solid defensively and super important to what the Bucks do, but he's going to be 34 pretty soon, if not already. And I think just with his age, I expect him to kind of, get a little bit worse, where Bobby Portis comes in, who I think could take the starting job at some point this season. He's not as good defensively, but much better offensively. So it's a bit of a trade-off. I'm curious to see what happens, but Bobby was really good this past season and got a bag for it. So shout out to Bobby Portis. Rudy Gobert is also going to go in the all-NBA tier. In my opinion, the 3rd best center in the league, now playing alongside Cat, who's moved over to the power forward position. Really curious to see how that duo works, but I think Gobert is going to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. I think he's really going to revolutionize the defense in Minnesota like they need it to. They've got a great offense going there, a lot of pieces in place, but I think Gobert is really going to elevate them to the next level. Jonas Valanciunas, I'm going to put in Fringe All-Star as well. Really great offensively. There was that one game where he hit 7 threes in a half, which was absurd, but I think he's only going to be better when Zion Williamson comes into the picture, a guy who can drive and kick out to him. I think the two of them can work really well as well in pick and roll, pick and pop. I'm excited to see what he does, and I think he could put up Fringe All-Star numbers. I don't think he'll make it because there's CJ McCollum, there's Brandon Ingram, and Zion on that team, but still, he'll be a really solid player. Mitchell Robinson, I'm going to put in the good tier. Mitchell Robinson has a ton of potential. He just really can't stay on the court, which is concerning. It's really hard to get in a rhythm in the NBA if you're not really ever healthy. I'm hopeful that Mitchell Robinson can kind of find that groove, and now that he's got a playmaker in Jalen Brunson, I think he could even elevate up to another tier, but I have to see. I'm still kind of hesitant on him, so we'll see what he's capable of. Derek Favors is going to start for the Thunder, my favorite team at center, with Chet Holmgren getting hurt. He's meh. He's like, okay, he's going to hit some shots here and there. He's solid in the pick and roll, but he's not really going to give you what a lot of these other guys give you. Derek Favors is getting older. I think he's a really solid backup big, but as a starting center, he's just kind of meh. Joel Embiid is an MVP candidate. I don't have to tell you that. Right there with Nikola Jokic as the best center in the league. Dominant offensively, dominant defensively. You have to double team him basically or he's going to score. Injuries are always a concern, but fingers crossed he stays healthy this season. Then we've got DeAndre Ayton, who I'm also going to put in this Fringe All-Star tier. I think he could be an All-Star this year. I put him in my breakout players video for the Suns. I think Chris Paul is going to take a bit more of a backseat offensively, so I could see DeAndre Ayton stepping it up a bit more there, alongside with him coming back on a max contract. They've got to get him more involved. It was part of the reason why they lost that series against the Mavericks is he wasn't as aggressive as he needed to be, and the Suns really didn't set him up for anything. I expect those problems to be rectified and him to have the best season of his career. Jusuf Nurkic, I'm also going to put in this great tier. I think he's going to have a good year. He's been kind of down these past few seasons. Another guy who's been injury plagued. He was kind of playing like a borderline top 5 center before he broke his leg a few seasons ago. And, now we'll see if he's able to kind of get back up to that form. I don't think he will, but I still think he can be pretty solid for the Blazers. I think the more talent that they have on that roster now will allow him to kind of be a bit more of himself too. So I think he's in for a pretty good year. Robert Williams. Part of me wants to put him in Fringe All-Star. I'm going to put him in Fringe All-Star. I'm going to go with Rob Williams being a Fringe All-Star this season. He was in Defensive Player of the Year conversations up until he got hurt last season, right at the end of the year, which maybe cost him the award or at least some consideration alongside teammate Marcus Smart, who won it. He's a better playmaker than people give him credit for. He's hyper athletic. He's really, really good. Rob is a guy that I've been a big believer in for a while, and I think he could make some All-Star noise this season. If the Celtics, are out there killing teams like I think they could. Then we've got Domantas Sabonis, who is going to go in the All-Star tier. I could move him up to All-NBA, but I think he's just down a little bit of a tier right now compared to these other guys. Domantas Sabonis is really good. He's a great playmaker, a great scorer, a great rebounder. He does a bit of everything. I'm excited to see how he and De'Aaron Fox play off of each other. It was really fun the way that they played last season, and I'm excited to see more of it. Plumlee is going in meh. I don't know why the Hornets still haven't gotten another starting center. I think they really need to rectify that, but they just haven't. They just won't get LaMelo Ball a competent starting center. Plumlee's okay as a backup, but as a starting center, it's not what you want to see. Nikola Vucevic, I'll put him in Fringe All-Star. I'll believe in him. He had a really down year last year, especially, he's never been a great defender, but offensively, he's always had capability. I'm going to put him here. I think he could even be down here in great, to be honest. I don't know. We'll come back to it. I'll leave him here for now, but his whole thing is offense, and he really struggled with that last season, so I don't know. Jarrett Allen is an all-star. There's really not much else to say. He was an all-star this past year. I think he's going to put up pretty similar numbers. JaVale McGee, I'm going to put in the good tier. He's a really solid starting center, like all of these guys are on this list. There's a lot of great starting centers on here. But JaVale McGee, he's going to do all the little things you need. And I think in Dallas, he's a great fit next to Christian Wood and Luka. Nikola Jokic, the two-time defending MVP, is of course an MVP candidate. You've got Kevon Looney, who I'm also going to put in the good tier. I think he's similar to JaVale McGee. He just kind of does all the little things, and he was super important to the Warriors' run to the NBA Finals last year. Miles Turner is going to go in maybe Fringe All-Star. I'll leave him in great for right now. I think I need to see a bit more from Miles Turner, but I think he could have a phenomenal year now that he has Tyrese Halliburton with him. I think the two of them will be one of the most fun young pick and roll, pick and pop duos in the league, so I'm excited to see what he does. Zubats is also going to go in good, I think, just pretty solid starting center for the Clippers. Clint Capella, I'll put him in great. I'm a little down on Clint Capella compared to most people. He's solid defensively, but he really kind of struggled last year. He's had some issues with injuries. I'm going to bank on a bounce back season from him. I think he's a pretty solid year. And then finally, Walker Kessler. I think he's going to go in meh. I think he could be a good starting center at some point down in his career, but for right now, it's just pretty early. He's going to have no good point guards to really set him up, assuming Mike Conley gets dealt. Colin Sexton, is solid, but he's more of a scorer. So yeah, this is my tier list. Do I want to change anything? I can move Vooch up to Fringe All-Star. I can move Miles Turner up. I think I'm going to leave it as it is. As always with these tier lists, if I looked at it for maybe 10 more minutes, I think I would make 4 or 5 changes, but I'm going to leave it here for now so this video doesn't take forever. I appreciate y'all watching. Like I said, let me know what I got wrong in the comment section below and leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.